Hey everyone, it's Jonathan and welcome to maybe the third or fourth episode in my sort of semi-recurring series looking at the 1970s anime Manga Sekai Mukashi Banashi, or Manga Fairytales of the World. Technically, you could make an argument that this is anywhere from the second to the sixth episode in this series, because it's come up several times over the years. This is a sort of a series that I have mostly been doing with Jenna, aka Phantomwise, though the very first time that I talked about this show was with my cousin Sarah back in 2017, as we looked at the American dub of the Alice in Wonderland episodes for Wonderland Wednesday. Since then, Jenna and I have talked about several more episodes in various podcasts across every version ever, including during my series on versions of Little Women and Dick Whittington and his cat, but I would like to come back to the show whenever I cover new fairy tales, and in this episode I'm using it to close out my current Fairy Tales miniseries and begin a new one for Christmas in July on versions of the Nutcracker. In this episode we are talking about two stories covered in the most recent series, Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood. As far as I know, they never covered Goldilocks and the Three Bears. However, I would say that the majority of this episode is actually about the Nutcracker, because A, they spread the story out over two episodes, and B, there was a lot more to discuss in the story in the Nutcracker than there was on either fairy tale episode. Okay, back for another episode of this series. My original thought had been, because there was no Goldilocks, because we're doing the Kids Lost in the Woods series, and I figured, since there's no Goldilocks, we only have Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood, I'll just fold it into whatever the next episode is when I do Fairy Tales again. But then I remembered there's a Nutcracker version, and I'm going to do the Nutcracker for Christmas in July, so I was like, let's just do it now. Let's just do the three stories. But I honestly feel like I have more to say about the Nutcracker than either Hansel and Gretel or Little Red Riding Hood, because for the most part, both Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood are pretty standard versions.
Yeah.
There's not a ton that makes them stand out.
The only thing I can really think of is Hansel and Gretel looks ugly.
Yes.
It's a sin against anime.
Like, we've talked about, like, every episode has a different group of people working on it, so it's always a different style. But with Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood, it's completely different than anything we've seen before, I believe. And they both sort of have a child's storybook-esque vibe to them, I guess. But the character designs in Hansel and Gretel are not that nice to look at. And Little Red Riding Hood, at least for herself, is like overly cute. The other characters aren't as cute, but Little Red Riding Hood is almost Hello Kitty levels of cute.
I guess. It's not really my kind of cute, but I can see that. Her boots were also straight. I don't know, the way she walked on her boots, it reminded me of Powerpuff Girls. How their shoes work.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Maybe Powerpuff Girls got inspired by this Little Red Riding Hood.
I don't know. It might be an anime style I've been sleeping on or something, but I was like, that reminds me of Powerpuff Girls. Also, purple boots? What the heck?
I guess you gotta have something to stand out from the other versions of Little Red Riding Hood.
I thought you were about to say stand out from the rest of the people. I'm like, you mean not the Red Hood? But yeah, I guess. Well, and I will say one thing about this Red Riding Hood is that she has animal friends this time.
Yes.
But they're pretty useless. The only thing they do is, like, because I was like, oh, are they going to try to warn the grandmother? Are they going to try to warn Little Red Riding Hood? Which, actually, they do, but, like, she doesn't understand them. But they're able to stop the hunter from shooting the wolf, instead cutting him open to release their grandmother and Red Riding Hood. But I'm like, that's a problem you made, story. Like, you inserted this plot point to just have the animals to justify their existence, and it doesn't really make sense. Thing is, like, nothing in Red Riding Hood really makes sense. So
it felt that way even more so with this version. Like, I've seen several versions of Little Red Riding Hood in doing this series now, and I feel like this is the one where the story makes the least sense, and part of it is because of the animals.
Yeah.
But part of it also, I feel like, is the hunter instead of a woodcutter. Like, he comes into the house, he's going to shoot the wolf, and all the animals come in and warn him not to, I guess they're talking in animal language. I couldn't tell what was supposed to be human language and what was supposed to be animal language, because with these are all episodes that you had archived on your YouTube channel, which YouTube autocorrects or auto translates or whatever sometimes, but it was not
Wow.
working for Little Red Riding Hood for whatever reason. It didn't like Little Red Riding Hood, so I didn't have an English translation for this. So I couldn't tell if the animals were actually talking because the bird was like talking to Little Red Riding Hood, but it seemed like she was ignoring the bird. But I guess maybe she just couldn't understand the bird.
Maybe.
But
I don't know.
but then you have the hunter at the end, and the animals warn him off of shooting the wolf because Little Red Riding Hood and the grandma are inside the wolf. So he pulls out a giant pirate sword instead and slices the wolf open. But then he lets the wolf live because the wolf wanders off into the forest afterwards, hiccuping a cuckoo clock that they'd shoved in his mouth.
Oh yeah, that was another difference in this one. He swallows a cuckoo clock for no reason.
Uh huh. But I'm like, they made the choice to change the woodcutter into a hunter who had wanted to kill the wolf. So why did he let the wolf live at the end?
Yeah, it's a woodcutter means he has an axe rather than a gun,
Uh huh.
and that's how he cuts them open. Like it's a natural. I don't want to say logic because it's not logical still,
No,
but
it's not. But that's how the
a
story
natural
goes.
a natural choice, I guess, to have him be a
Yeah.
woodcutter because then that justifies this happening, yada yada. Versus when you make him a hunter, it's like, well, now he has a gun, so why would he do that?
Yeah.
And now they have to add animals? Yeah, it's a weird choice.
I thought we were going to finally have a version where the wolf actually dies. Because so
Mm.
far, I don't think I've seen a version yet where they actually kill the wolf.
Oh,
Because,
that would just be too dark. It's not dark to be eaten by a wolf alive. That's not dark, but to kill the wolf afterwards, that's so dark, Jonathan. I can't believe you would go there.
the way that it would have been even darker if they'd gone with what I thought was going to happen. Because the hunter aimed his gun at the wolf's head, and I was like, is he just going to blow the wolf's head off and they're going to crawl out his neck?
Yeah, I was curious where that was going.
I don't know. This was a weird version.
Yeah, other than that, it's pretty standard. There's not
Yeah.
much to say about it. Like, the weirdest part is that there's animals, but they don't add anything while the story's being told.
Yeah.
So,
They really didn't.
yeah. Oh, another thing I noticed was, usually you have the whole, Grandma, what big ears you have. And she's like, oh, well, better to hear you with, my dear. And, well, I say she, the wolf. And what a big nose you have. And this one is just like, what a big ear. And it's like, okay, I'm going to eat you now. Bye.
I could tell that they were saying something that was probably similar to the lines, but like I said, I didn't
Yeah.
have an English translation, so I couldn't tell
Oh,
exactly what
I
was
didn't
going on.
either. I just thought it was obvious because the ear pops out
Yeah.
and she says some, and Red Riding Hood says something, and then the wolf replies back, and so it's like, okay, that's obviously the line, right? And then I thought we were gonna see like, what a big nose you have, or something, or what a big mouth you have, or which are, but no, that was it.
We only have 10 minutes. We got to cut some
Yeah,
lines. We got to fit in these useless animals somehow.
yeah. Well, they could have saved some time by not having the animals.
Yeah.
That's an idea. I also thought it was interesting because oh, actually another change. I use the word interesting. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's different. That we kind of start almost in media res, where we cut off the very beginning, where
Uh-huh.
Red Riding Hood is told to go to her grandmother's house, and it's a weird choice because now, okay, so we see Red Riding Hood with her basket, and then she remembers her mother telling her to do
I thought
this.
that's what was happening. It was like she was
Yeah,
having a flashback.
yeah, and it's like, okay, you could have just done it. Like,
Yeah.
does this really save that much time if you're gonna tell us anyway? Yeah, I don't know. Strange choice, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
guess you save on a background and another character design. But then they made character designs for the animals, and they were pointless. So,
I mean, there was the character design anyways because she had the flashback.
yeah, that's the point too. I mean, so it doesn't really matter. Just do it. But whatever. There were just a couple of strange choices. That's all I'm saying. Do you have any thoughts about Little Red Riding Hood? Since I guess we went that direction.
That's all my notes that I had taken for that one. It was very standard except for some odd choices.
Yeah, I agree. How about anything for Hansel and Gretel?
I had a couple notes. I think I probably liked Hansel and Gretel more, even though I've seen better versions of Hansel and Gretel, even ones that at the Shelley Duvall's one was a downer, but I'd almost prefer that story to this because this was just kind of boring.
Hmm.
I feel like the only interesting choice for this, I don't know how much sense it even makes, but I just found it interesting that with the different versions of Hansel and Gretel, there's always this question of, is the stepmother the witch? And with this one, when they first saw the witch, I was like, I don't know, she kind of has a stepmothery look to her, but then she transformed and she didn't look like the stepmother anymore. But then at the end, when Gretel is shoving her into the oven, there's a shot of back home with the stepmother cooking, and the shelf above the stove comes loose, knocks some mugs into a big pot of oil, splashing and burning the stepmother, who dies from the oil burns.
Oh,
I was like, okay, well, it's obvious that they're two separate characters, but they are somehow still connected for whatever reason. I mean, thematically, they're connected, of course, like these evil
yeah,
figures, but that was still a weird coincidence, question mark.
yeah. It was interesting that they even bothered to try to show anything happening to the stepmother.
Uh-huh. But they really made it seem like it was connected to Gretel killing the witch in some way, because it's happening at the same time as she's shoving her into the oven. It was
Yeah,
just odd.
yeah. It was odd. That's all I can really say about it. It's just an odd choice.
Yeah. Other than that, it was just kind of boring. There wasn't really anything too extra interesting about it. I didn't really like the character design. There's nothing really that stands out to me with this one other than that choice.
The only thing that stood out to me was the house made me think of something inappropriate because they're I don't know if I should say it, but I don't know, just something about this house. I was like, man, I don't even know if I could say this on Jonathan's podcast, what it makes me think about. But I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but there were circular things with circular colors in the middle of them. And I was like, why are you doing this to me? You know, like,
I did not catch that at all.
yeah, I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. Maybe that's just a common like dessert decorating technique in Japan or something.
I don't know.
But I don't know. It just made me think of certain things. So yeah, that's the only thing that I found interesting about the whole thing, really. Otherwise, it was a chore to watch, frankly. But like, it's technically the worst Hansel and Gretel I've seen, but I'm sure there's worse out there. I just haven't gone to look for them.
I think it's probably the worst I've seen so far. Because,
Yeah.
like, before this, I would have said Shelley Duvall's, which was made well, but it was a downer. Like,
Mm.
it was very morose. It was not fun. But I almost would prefer watching that because it was more interesting to look at than this, because I didn't really like these character designs.
Yeah, the character designs were very ugly. I don't know what they were thinking about this one. I also, oh, I will say though, I think that they may have missed the context that the reason why the stepmother dumps them is because they're too poor. Because she's dressed really nicely for a peasant, in my opinion. Just something I
I,
noticed.
I don't even remember if they made note of the reason that she wanted to abandon them. Because like the subtitles did work on this one, but some of the words were wrong, so what they was not perfect. So
Hmm.
I don't remember if they had a reason for wanting to abandon the kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually haven't even really tried using the translated subtitles at all. I'm used to them not working, I guess, so I don't even try.
When I've tried for these episodes, they have worked maybe like 80% of the time.
Interesting.
They're not perfect because I can still tell that some words are incorrect, but they usually turn on at least.
Maybe people could stop bothering me for subtitles now. I'm like, I don't speak Japanese. I can't make subtitles.
Yeah.
You make subtitles to come back to me. How about that?
It does an okay job if it works. It's not
Mm.
perfect, but it's better than nothing. Little Red Riding Hood, like I said, it did not work at all.
Mm. Do we have anything else to say about the Hansel and Gretel?
I don't think so. It was,
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
yeah, very unremarkable.
Really was. Alright, so this is so far the fastest episode that we've ever done, I think.
I have more notes on the Nutcracker, so we'll see if that.
Okay, that's true. That was the more interesting of the three. So, like, let's jump into it, I guess.
It was more interesting and better designed, and it had more things that made me stop and take notes because it was a different choice for the story. Because I've seen enough of these that I know what the story is usually like. So
Yeah,
there were some odd story changes in this. Not odd in that it was bad, just interesting.
I just want to start by saying that they obviously don't know what a nutcracker looks like, so that's interesting. Do they not have nutcrackers in Japan, or at least prior to this, I guess?
I don't know. It was an odd looking thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, for anyone listening to this, I don't know why you would know what we're talking about first, but okay, so if you watch this one, instead of what like throw picture a nutcracker and throw that out of your head. It's not like that at all. It's more like a doll, and the top part of the head opens up, and you put the nut in, and then you crack down on the head to crack the nut, which is not how I don't know anything in real life that looks like that, but I guess that's how they imagine a nutcracker would look like by description. Which is an interesting idea. Like that is kind of someone told you it was like a doll that cracks nuts. That is probably what you would think, I guess.
I guess so. It's interesting that you described it as looking like a doll because I kept finding myself referring to it as a doll when I was taking my notes.
Oh,
I had to keep
interesting.
changing my notes. I was like, no, it's a Nutcracker. Why do I keep writing doll?
I mean, it's very common for the Nutcracker to get called a doll, so it's not unusual. But yeah, in this one, I think it was even more doll-like than usual.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you wanted to say about it?
Well, the first thing that I noticed right off the bat is that I don't know if you caught this since you didn't have the subtitles, but she is an orphan in this version. She lives with her aunt and uncle and cousins.
No, I didn't catch that. That's a weird choice.
Yeah.
So Fritz and the weird girl, who I thought she was just a hater, so those were cousins.
They were supposed to be her cousins.
Okay.
And she already has the Nutcracker at the beginning of the story.
Yeah, that's also a really strange choice. She's not given the Nutcracker.
Uh huh. And for whatever reason, Clara already knows that the Nutcracker is a prince. Like the narration of the cartoon says that she knows that he's a prince and he's going to come and rescue her riding on her glass dragon, which is another knickknack that she has in
I
her
did
room.
notice, yeah, I did notice the glass dragon thing was really, really weird. See that now that's an interesting story, honestly. Like
It
having a
is.
toy that you think is going to save you one day, but like that's not the Nutcracker. So
Yeah. It's not the same story as the Nutcracker. It's one of those where if they've taken elements of the Nutcracker and made their own story, which is like kind of 90% of the Nutcrackers that I've seen. They've
yeah.
taken elements and then done their own thing.
But that said, I think this one was actually like relatively faithful in many ways. But then it would make strange choices, and it's just like, huh, okay,
It was faithful in we'll get to it. There was parts where
yeah,
I thought they were being faithful to the book rather than the ballet, but then the story, like the narrator would say what's happening, and it's like this is not what happened in the book.
okay. There's also parts of it that reminded me of a Nutcracker fantasy.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of like a similar vibe, and it made me wonder, wait, is there something up with the translations of Nutcracker in Japan?
I
Like,
don't know.
see, because I thought that those were narrative choices that they made in that movie, and now I'm kind of like, well, this kind of reminded me of that a little bit, so,
Yeah,
or maybe it's just a coincidence.
it could be, I don't know, but there were parts where I was thinking specifically of the Nutcracker fantasy.
Particularly, I don't know, just obviously there were parts of it that were very like they have the Princess Pearly Pat part of the story, for
Yes,
instance.
but that is one of the parts where the narrator says something that is not part of the story. Because the
Mm.
princess who she finds, she is described as her dream self. It's herself in a dream.
See, and that's very Nutcracker fantasy. Like
Yeah,
the Princess Pearly Pat, and that is basically Clara, but just different. So I'm like, wait a second. What's going on? Japan, explain. Explain Japan.
Yeah, I
Did
don't
you
know.
get a translation of the Nutcracker that is just different than what we have?
Maybe.
Maybe. Or maybe the English translation of the Nutcracker's all wrong. Maybe we're missing out. Because it was originally in German.
That's true. I don't
Yeah.
know. What year was Nutcracker Fantasy? I should know this because I've already recorded a podcast on it.
I think it was in the 70s, wasn't it?
I think it was 70s, but was it around the same time as this?
Yes.
Because I'm kind of wondering if one is informing the other or if they are both going off of some odd translation.
Well, Nutcracker Fantasy is 1979. I think this was before that, but
Yeah, I would assume this is before that because this was early to mid 70s.
the Alice was 1977. I don't know about this one in particular. It might have been like the year before or the year after, like 1978. But regardless, most likely before Nutcracker Fantasy. So that is a very strange coincidence.
It is.
Now I'm wondering if it's a translation thing. By the way, I found out why the caterpillar is often green in Japanese adaptations instead of blue. So in Japanese, basically how they describe colors is based on warm and cold. So like saying like cold colored could mean green or blue. So my guess
Okay.
is in the Japanese translation of Alice in Wonderland, they used the word for like a cold color, and they thought it was green when they read it
Huh.
because caterpillars are green
Interesting.
in real life. Yeah. So this part of me is wondering if this is a translation thing where someone maybe the translator described it as a dream self of Marie or Clara, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Now I'm kind of like curious about the English translation, how Drosselmeyer describes Princess Pirlipat or something. Does he say something like a girl like you or something in the original novel?
I don't remember that because Princess Pirlipat in the original story is not described very flatteringly. She's not
Yeah,
that nice, and she's cursed to ugliness because of her attitude.
yeah. Today I learned there's a Princess Nutcracker Prince Wikipedia page, but okay. No, I don't want to know about that specific film. Oh, I will say it also reminds me of Nutcracker Prince a little bit too.
A little bit.
Yeah, especially the princess, probably like even just having that because it's pretty rare for Nutcracker to have the storyline.
It is. Most versions I've seen mostly go after the ballet.
Yeah,
This one I kind of wondered how much of the story they were going to do. Partially because, like, when the mouse shows up, it has three heads. But in the book, it's a seven-headed mouse queen who is eventually killed, and then her son takes over. So they didn't do
yeah,
that. But the mice in this thing were almost like something out of a horror movie for kids.
yeah. They were pretty scary, especially like the crunching sound.
Yeah, the opening shot where they're chewing up the dolls.
Yeah, but they're described in the original book as like chewing up some of the toys. But specifically, I guess toys made out of gingerbread was more common or some stuff like that. So they weren't chewing the wooden toys. They were chewing like the candy ones.
I guess going back to sort of the beginning, another change was that Drosselmeyer was just her uncle's friend because
So the
it just.
godmother.
And this is another place where the subtitles weren't perfect because I knew that they were saying Drosselmeyer, but the subtitle said something different, but it was like something something Meyer as like the last name. So the subtitles weren't perfect, but I knew what they were talking about. And at that point, because I had thought when it said that she was living with her aunt and uncle and cousins, for whatever reason, I just thought it was she was living with the Drosselmeyer family. Because like different versions sometimes will say different relations as to who Drosselmeyer is to her. Like I think I've
Mm,
seen grandfather, godfather, uncle. So I just assumed that this was the Drosselmeyer family and she was living with them. But this is a completely unrelated person, just a friend of her uncle named Mr. Drosselmeyer.
okay.
And he fixes, instead of bringing a new Nutcracker, he fixes it after one of her cousins breaks it.
Mm.
And then he puts it in a glass case to keep it away from the cousin.
Which the last case is from the original book. No, it's
Yeah,
usually left out. Yeah.
yeah. And then this is where the battle happens because I guess the mice or rats or whatever they are in this version. I think the subtitle said mice. They look like rats to me. They come to like eat the dolls or something. These things eat dolls, I guess.
Again, that's also from the book. They eat things. But again, like usually, it's supposed to be like candy dolls, but yeah, in this one they just skip that. They just eat the dolls.
And then you've got the battle, and then they break the case, and then she falls into a void and wakes up in her dreamland. Like she's told by someone there that this is her dreamland. They tell
Yeah,
her that
like the
she is the
night.
princess and the candy
Yeah,
castle is hers.
which is an interesting thing to do.
Uh huh. Yeah, it was a very interesting choice that I haven't really seen before. Like,
Yeah,
there have been things similar to this in other versions of the Nutcracker, but not this exactly.
yeah,
And never the glass dragon, because the glass dragon comes in here and takes her to the castle. And then you wouldn't have gotten this since you didn't have the subtitles, but the king and queen, she says, are her dead parents.
man, that's deep.
And they don't see her. She is told that they can't see her because this is her dream.
Okay, I think dreams don't work that way, but all right, sure,
That's what they, at least that's what the subtitle said.
right,
But this king and queen are worried about their cursed daughter who has become a mouse. And I don't think the subtitles really say what happened, but you kind of infer that it was the Mouse King that did this. And then this is where it seemed like they were doing the thing from the book, because they've got a whole bunch of princes coming in trying to crack the nut with their teeth
yeah,
to save the princess. Except they specifically say that the nut must be cracked with their teeth, and then whoever cracks the nut must feed the princess mouth to mouth for her to eat
yeah,
the
I
nut.
noticed that.
I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah, that was a strange addition. Other than that, like relatively faithful to the original book, but that was a strange thing.
Yeah, well, most versions don't have anything like this, so it was interesting
Yeah,
that they kept a similar scene, like different context, but a similar thing is happening that happened in the book.
yeah. If anything, it gives me more context for Nutcracker Fantasy now, assuming they might have had similar source material.
Yeah, it might have, because this is where
Yeah,
I was getting the most Nutcracker fantasy vibes, because there's another battle, and there's actually, like with the Nutcracker fantasy, there was a stabbing, and I'd forgotten that, and there is a stabbing in
yeah,
this one too,
yeah. I noticed that as well.
because the Nutcracker is this boy, and then he shows up, frees the cursed princess, and he isn't the Nutcracker. He looks nothing like the Nutcracker, but Clara knows that he's the Nutcracker.
Mm,
And then they have a battle, and the princess, the dream princess, dream version of Clara is about to be killed. So real Clara throws herself on the dream version and gets stabbed. And she says it doesn't matter if she dies, the important thing is saving her dream self. And then I think we're supposed to infer that she dies in the dream and then wakes up in her own bed.
okay, I guess. I don't think sacrificing yourself for your dream self is a good idea, but okay.
I don't know. But her aunt and uncle tell her that she accidentally broke the glass case when she tried to get the Nutcracker back.
Yeah, that happened in the book.
And then Drosselmeyer shows up again and has a boy with him, which I don't remember if they said who the boy was or if the subtitles were correct. But this is obviously the prince slash Nutcracker. And this is where I'm not sure if the subtitles were correct or not, because the prince tells her that he never loved her, at least by the subtitles. I think there was a translation error there, because it feels wrong
Probably.
to me.
Yeah.
But then they leave the room, and she asks why he said that, and he said that he was only saying that so the adults don't suspect anything, because he was also in the dream world, and adults forget the dreams when they grow up. And then they look out the window and they see her castle in the distance, and then they fly off on the glass dragon.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
A really bizarre end.
It was an interesting version.
It
That's all I
was.
can really say. It may be a little too short.
I kind of wanted more. I wish we had like an actual translation rather than presumably AI subtitles, because I
Yeah.
really want to know exactly what was going on, and I feel like they needed more context, because this was twice as long as the other ones, but I still needed more because it was so much shorter than any other version that I've seen.
Context? I don't know her. No.
Not a lot with this show, anyways.
Yeah, I it's interesting that there's like no version of Nutcracker that is faithful to the book, like as far as I know.
I have not come across one yet, no.
Yeah, there's just a few stories like that. Like that's the same thing with Babes in Toyland as well.
It's interesting with the Nutcracker. I have found that most versions are not faithful to
Yeah,
either the book or the ballet. Most versions cherry pick things here and there from both and then make up their own story.
yeah,
It's an interesting case because you don't usually have two distinct source materials to choose from, and you don't usually have a story that people almost completely make up themselves. Usually with different adaptations of fairy tales, you have a basic plot that you always get, but with the Nutcracker, you can't even really expect the basic plot. You
yeah,
you get elements, but they still do their own thing with it.
yeah. Or the way they will like incorporate it is different.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
But definitely a unique version. Yeah,
It is.
I've never heard of Marie or Clara, whatever her name is. Never heard of her being orphaned before.
Yeah, this is the first time that I've seen a version where she's an orphan.
But yeah, now I kind of want to watch Nutcracker Fantasy, so I might do that after this.
It's good. I've watched both versions for the podcast now, and I will say I liked the Japanese one better.
The Japanese version is much better than the Delta one. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely worth watching. That's
yeah.
probably, I think that might be my favorite version of the Nutcracker I've seen.
Oh, interesting. Nutcracker Prince is probably still my favorite, but I do really like Nutcracker Fantasy. If I could get both of them merged into one, I think I'd be a happy girl. But until I do it myself, it's unlikely to happen. But like they're so close to kind of like. But the thing is, like Nutcracker Fantasy is also kind of weird. They're
I
both
mean,
so
all
close to being
Nutcracker versions are
perfect.
weird. This is a weird
Yeah,
story. I don't think
yeah,
there's a
I
way
guess
to make a
so.
not weird Nutcracker.
Yeah, I guess it's just too weird of a story. I think Nutcracker Prince probably went the closest to almost being like a great story, like fixing the weirdness a little bit. But then it dedicates too much time to like the pearly plot subplot. So I liked how Nutcracker Fantasy had that still, but kind of did it in a more I don't know. It doesn't feel like the film stops in its tracks when it addresses that.
Hmm.
Um, like Nutcracker Prince. I also just really I enjoy the like the dream-like element in Nutcracker Fantasy.
Yeah.
So if I could get the two together, I think that would be perfect. But I'll just keep waiting, I guess.
Who knows? Maybe there's another perfect one out there.
Maybe.
Seems unlikely. I feel like I would have heard about one. Most Nutcrackers kind of fade into obscurity, but
Yeah.
I would think that if there was one that was universally beloved, I would have heard about it.
No, there's no universally beloved one. At some point, I tried to rewatch it again, but I was trying to do it quickly, so I watched it at double speed. Oh my god, the sound of the rats munching at double speed is nightmare fuel. Do not recommend.
Now I kind of want to watch it on double speed just to know what it sounds like, because they already sounded creepy.
Yeah. It's just,
The way the mice were introduced, that whole scene, I was like, if a child saw this who was not used to scary things, I feel like that scene could cause nightmares. There was just something about it. It was just weird and visceral, and I don't know. It was so out of context for most of what I've seen from this show. It's not, they don't usually lean into horror like that. At least the
yeah.
episodes I've seen.
They've had horror elements, but yeah, that's usually as far as they go.
Yeah, that was an odd scene.
They did do Frankenstein and Dracula, I think, though. But
Yes, I have
Dracula
them
has
on a
nothing
list
to
of.
do with the real, like the actual Dracula story. That it's completely different. It's very strange.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had those on the list for a while because at some point I would like to do a series on versions of like the Universal monsters.
Hmm. It's a good idea.
I probably won't get to it this year, but at some point it's on my very long list of adaptations to do.
If you do Phantom, I'd be interested. Some people consider that a universal monster.
I don't know, but Phantom of the Opera is on my list also.
Yeah. Alright, we're going off tangent. Is there anything else you want to say about the anime? I think
No, I think that's all I've got to say about these episodes.
if I would recommend this to anybody, I think I'd say the Nutcracker one is worth checking out just because it's different.
Yeah,
But other than that, I think Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood is skippable.
yeah. They,
And even the Nutcracker isn't like fantastic. It's just kind of interesting.
yeah. Nutcracker is interesting for fans of the Nutcracker who want a unique take on it. This is pretty short. It's easily watchable. I
Yeah,
mean, Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood are even shorter, but they're kind of just unremarkable, so I can't really even recommend it unless you are an absolute completist, like you must watch all versions of Hansel and Gretel and Little Red Riding Hood, which
yeah.
seems unlikely. I think I'm the only person like that.
Well, I mean, you're not alone, but yeah, definitely you could skip those. But the Nutcracker, I would say, is one of the better episodes of Manga Sekai Mukashi Banashi. Not one of the best, but one of the better ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say so too. It was one of the ones that have kept my attention the longest. Because sometimes I get bored with some of these. Like, they're interesting. It is interesting to see how a different culture in a different time interpreted these stories. So they're interesting for that reason. But
Yeah,
Nutcracker, I thought, was interesting as a version of the Nutcracker.
yes. I give it a B minus. It was interesting if you're a Nutcracker fan.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting watching more episodes of the show. I'm like, dang, I didn't realize like the Alice was one of the pinnacles of the show. It's a really good Alice. Because some of the show has a lot of misses. But the Nutcracker just barely manages to be a hit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that will be all for this episode. We will be back for more Nutcracker later, probably more of this show at some point in the future also. But until then, do you want to let people know where they can find you online?
if you want Alice Wonderland content, I have Phantomwise on YouTube. If you would like other than Alice Wonderland content, which is just anything that interests me, look at the Fairy Tale on YouTube, including the Nutcracker Prince Laserdisc rip if you want that.
Yeah, if you are interested in any of these three, she has them archived on her channel. That's where I got the subtitles for at least two of these.
Yeah, but only Nutcracker was my last one, I think. But yeah, go check it out.
Okay, well, we will talk to you next time.
All right, see you then.
Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. All of our links will be in the description below. If you'd like more podcasts like this one, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you'd like to support this show, check out Johncast Media on Patreon for everything here, plus bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.